We need to give time to the honourable member for Oshawa to have a 15-second answer.
Well, I love to answer questions from the Green Party that is the party against development of any kind. But he brought up pipelines, Madam Speaker, and that's an incredibly serious failure of this government, whether it's Keystone or Line 5. And I'm sure Canadians can count on that member over there to be cheering Yahoo, like his leader said when that announcement was made. It's shameful, Madam Speaker.
And it is now time for statements by members. The honourable member for Richmond Hill. For Richmond Hill is on mute. Okay. He's not anymore.
Madam Speaker, COVID-19 has further highlighted many challenges that continue to impact our mental health and wellness. The CMHA found that 87% of Canadians do not have access to mental health support, and in total, 1.6 million Canadians' needs will go unmet each year. We as a nation must work towards building capacity and improving access to mental health services, as well as addressing the socioeconomic determinants of health. This highlights the need for a strategic and focused investment that is supported by research. Adopting wellness practices such as daily exercise, healthy eating, sufficient sleep, strong relationship, and helping others are beneficial to maintaining our mental wellness. I want to commend the community organizations who are working to address the mental illness and wellness. We must recognize there is no health without mental health. On special days like today, we raise awareness regarding mental health and well-being in Canada. However, the conversation must not stop when today ends. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The honourable member for Kootenay, Columbia.
Madam Speaker, Canada and the United States are in the process of negotiations to renew the Columbia River Treaty. Global Affairs is working closely with the province, Columbia Basin First Nations, and local communities. As the treaty is primarily in the federal riding of Kootenay, Columbia, I wrote to the Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs respectfully requesting I be delegated observer status. It is important to ensure those impacted by the negotiation, hundreds of millions in revenue, be given a voice. My knowledge of the area would be beneficial as an observer during the negotiations. A modernized treaty must be favorable to the Kootenay Columbians and include cooperative development of water resources, flood risk management, power generation, and recreation like Kukanusa. Of equal importance is the reintroduction of the salmon to the upper Columbia River. At its inception, the treaty displaced over 270,000 acres of our ecosystem, including local farmers, ranchers, Indigenous communities. Mr. Speaker, this is an important issue in my riding. I look forward to hearing from the Minister at his earliest convenience.
The honourable member for West Vancouver, Sunshine Coast, Sea to Sky Country.
Mr. Speaker, the 2,500 search and rescue volunteers in BC provide an invaluable service in our province. I know the Pemberton, Whistler, Squamish, and North Shore search and rescue crews have been working tirelessly to respond to emergency distress calls this year, having been deployed almost 1,600 times since April. In a typical year, Whistler search and rescue encounters 2 to 3 fatalities, but this month has already seen 4 tragic deaths. This includes Max Vinegar, a young man who fell into a tree well while skiing and did not survive despite best efforts to save him. While the snow conditions have been outstanding and we rightly seek refuge in the incredible natural environment in our backyard, I ask that you observe the following safety precautions no matter your skill level. Always plan your route, ensure you have the appropriate equipment, check daily snow conditions with Avalanche Canada, designate a person to expect your return, and should you find yourself in distress, call 911 as it could save your life. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Montcalm. Mr. Speaker, let's take advantage of Bell's Let's Talk Day to express ourselves on mental health. It's all the more important because behind the COVID-19 pandemic, there lies another. Our mental health is deteriorating because of all the sacrifices we've imposed upon ourselves, nobly and with honor, to save lives. There's no shame in saying that we feel that the stress is catching up with us, that we're anxious or depressed. Everyone could need help. Anyone could need help, and there is help available, and we mustn't hesitate to seek it out. In Quebec, we have mental health care professionals who are very competent, and we can rely on them. Consult 811 or the Quebec government site to find out what resources are available. Above all, lend an ear to your loved ones, listen to each other, and take care of yourselves. The Honourable Member for Alfred Pellan. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to begin by wishing my colleagues and all Canadians a healthy 2021, with a special thought for my dad, who left us 16 years ago. Today is Bell Let's Talk Day, a chance for each of us to talk mental health. With the pandemic, our mental health has been put to the test. The lockdown and the curfew in Quebec are having a major impact on the emotional health of my community of Alfred Pellan. That's why it's all the more important to turn to a loved one, a helpline, or a health professional. Above all, remember, you are not alone. We'll get through this together. Meanwhile, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and take care of your mental health. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Abbotsford.
It's been 15 years since I was given the opportunity to represent the people of Abbotsford in Parliament. Much has transpired over the past decade and a half, but nothing quite like this past year. I've seen our community come together in a way that is truly remarkable. This should not come as a surprise, as Abbotsford consistently ranks as the most generous community in Canada. I want to thank the many frontline workers who have given so much of themselves, those at the Abbotsford Regional Hospital, those in our many care homes, the first responders, paramedics, our Abbey PD and fire rescue services, our farmers, and those who continue to work in our grocery stores, our teachers and their students, essential workers of every kind who had to adjust to a new normal. Mr. Speaker, these are just some of the heroes who stepped up when they were needed the most. Thank you to everyone in Abbotsford, from youngest to oldest, for doing your part in keeping us all safe. May God bless you all.
The Honourable Member for Kings Hants.
Mr. Speaker, today I rise in the House to recognize the appointment of one of my constituents, Ray Ivany, to the Order of Canada, the former president of Acadia University in Kings Hants and a Cape Breton native who began his academic career as a faculty member at Cape Breton University, where he subsequently served as executive vice president. He was instrumental in the development of the Nova Scotia Community College, where he served as president and CEO, and in recognition of his tireless contributions to the NSCC, the Dartmouth campus was named the Ivany campus in his honor. Ray served as the chair of a commission on Nova Scotia's economic future, which produced a report, Now or Never, an urgent call to action for Nova Scotians, that provided an economic roadmap to government and to the private sector. His report championed the importance of immigration, and as Nova Scotia's population reaches 1 million, he can be credited as an important catalyst for action. The motto of the Order of Canada, "They deserve a better country," is suitable to describe Ray's commitment to public service, and I hope all members of this House will join me in recognizing his contribution.
The Honourable Member for Brampton South.
Mr. Speaker, 1 in 5 Canadians were struggling with their mental health before the pandemic, but it has taken a great toll on many in our country. We hear about loneliness and depression among our seniors, anxiety in our youth, and domestic violence faced by women. In the Health Committee, we heard that since the start of the pandemic, level of high depression in Canada have doubled, and high anxiety has grown by 4 times. Organizations like CMHA, PEAL, Soch Mental Health, Roots, Indus Community Services, PCHS, Boys and Girls Club, and many more have played an important role in supporting mental health in Brampton. Last April, our government launched Wellness Together Canada to connect people with the support services. For most people who are suffering, the hardest part is taking the first step. Today on Bell Let's Talk Day, let us remember to do our part to start our dialogue, break the stigma, and be there for those who need help. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Battleford's Lloydminster.
Mr. Speaker, documents released by the government recently confirmed what we already knew. Canadians are paying more in carbon taxes than they get back in rebates. I recently spoke to Doug from Trosick Farms in my riding, who showed me his latest carbon tax hit of $5,400. If the Prime Minister has his way, that bill will increase to over $30,000. And that's just the carbon tax on his propane, never mind the carbon tax on everything else. Our farmers are taking a huge hit to their bottom line with no acknowledgement of their environmental contributions. This Liberal government's plan to triple the carbon tax will only further devastate farm businesses and farm families. They need a Conservative Prime Minister who treats them with respect and who will secure their future. The middle of a pandemic is not time for higher taxes. But you know what, Mr. Speaker? It's a great opportunity for this Liberal government to abandon their failed carbon tax completely.
The Honourable Member for Mississauga East.
Mr. Speaker, today I have the pleasure of highlighting Tamil Heritage Month during the month of January. Adopted unanimously by Parliament in 2016, this month provides Canadians an opportunity to celebrate the vibrant culture and significant contributions of Tamil Canadians to Canada's social and economic fabric. Thanks to our MP for Scarborough Rouge Park, this year many of us had the wonderful virtual opportunity to learn more about Tamil culture and heritage, and to recognize the many contributions Tamil Canadians have made to our great nation. January is an especially significant month for the Tamil community, celebrating Thai Pongal, the Tamil Harvest Festival. Belated Putthandu Thai Pongal, Nal Vastukal. Tamil Canadians have overcome tremendous obstacles and have made significant contributions to the growth and prosperity of Canada. We will forever celebrate Tamil heritage for future generations by having declared January every year Tamil Heritage Month.
Honourable Member for Lanark, Frontenac, Kingston.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday's anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz is iconic in the struggle against anti-Semitism. Tomorrow is the 4th anniversary of the shooting at the Centre Islamique du Québec, equally iconic of our opposition to Islamophobia. The two hatreds are two sides of the same coin. Therefore, yesterday it was appropriate to say, never again on behalf of all victims of anti-religious hatred, regardless of their faith. Likewise, tomorrow, the best way to show solidarity with Canada's Muslims is to pledge ourselves to oppose all anti-religious violence, regardless of the target. To deprive the simplistic ideologies of group identity and group hatred of oxygen, we must never, even in the name of sympathy, single out the victim groups as the existential other. They are us. Yesterday, there was a sense in which we were all Jews. Tomorrow, there is a sense in which we are all Muslims, and every day we are all family.
The Honourable Member for Caribou Prince George.
Mr. Speaker, today is Bell Let's Talk Day, and it's time to talk about mental health. Moreover, it's time for action. As leaders, we must do everything in our power to break the stigma and to break down the barriers for Canadians seeking help. We can leave a legacy of action by being the change that is needed. We can lead the way by having honest and frank discussions. Let's show Canadians that it's okay not to be okay, and it's okay to talk about mental health and mental illness. Mental health challenges do not discriminate, and mental health affects us all. So, Mr. Speaker, let's talk. My name is Todd Doherty. I'm the Member of Parliament for Caribou Prince George. Mental illness and suicide have had a devastating impact on my life. I've lost friends and loved ones to suicide, and I have family members who continue to battle mental illness. And I struggle with these losses, and I live with the physical and emotional scars of this every day. Today, use Bell Let's Talk hashtag on your social media platforms, but more importantly, talk to your friends, reach out to your family, talk to your colleagues, ask them if they're okay. No one should suffer in silence. Let's continue the conversation. Let's end the stigma. Mr. Speaker, let's talk.
The Honourable Member for Victoria.
Mr. Speaker, today is Tu B'Shvat, the Jewish New Year for the trees. It's a time to honor the Jewish tradition of responsible stewardship of the earth, to reflect on the interconnectedness of everything in creation, and to commit to environmental justice. Victoria is home to the Congregation Emmanuel, Canada's oldest synagogue in continuous use. Along with Greater Victoria acting together, they are engaging in the Tuesdays for Trees campaign and are planning a project with First Nations youth to help remove foreign invasive species. The congregation usually celebrates Tu B'Shvat by spending time outdoors together. And although this year has to be different, they've still found a way to celebrate by encouraging people to get out into nature, to share their stories, their photos, and videos online. When discussing Tu B'Shvat, Rabbi Harry also spoke about the deep urgency of the environmental crisis, the need for a paradigm shift in how we relate to the earth, and about the idea that the land does not belong to us, we belong to the land. Today, let's all take a moment to stop and reflect on our relationship with nature and our responsibility to care for the earth.
The Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Jean. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday, at last, the House of Commons got behind the Bloc Québécois in calling unanimously on the government to grant citizenship to Raif Badawi. Quebecers expect all MPs to keep their word, especially the Prime Minister and the Global Affairs Minister. In 2015, before taking office, both publicly questioned what Ottawa was waiting for in seeking his release. They said Canadians stood in solidarity and would put up a united front. Over 5 years later, they've done nothing. But today there is a united front here in the House of Commons. It's time to act. The Minister of Immigration must immediately grant Mr. Badawi citizenship. The Global Affairs Minister must restart talks with Saudi Arabia with a view to securing this Canadian citizen's release. And I expect the Prime Minister to show absolute leadership. Ensaf Haidar and her children have waited long enough, and Raif Badawi has suffered enough. Thank you.
Member for Lakeland.
Mr. Speaker, the veto of Keystone XL wasn't surprising, but it was a major blow to tens of thousands of families in Alberta and across Canada. Oil and gas is the biggest private sector investor in Canada's economy, employs 500,000 Canadians, even after historic job losses under these Liberals, and is crucial to secure the recovery. Canada's oil and gas is world-class with the highest environmental and social standards. The world needs and wants more Canadian oil and gas, and so do Canadians. But Canada is wholly dependent on the U.S. as a customer, while Canadians in many regions have to rely on foreign oil with much lower standards due to the Liberals' anti-energy agenda that killed the only west-to-east pipeline proposal, stopped West Coast shipping, and will block future pipelines. The Prime Minister shut down Canadian oil while the U.S. ramped up. It's now the world's biggest producer and exporter and is eyeing Line 5, which supplies Ontario and Quebec. The Liberals must reverse course to secure Canadian energy independence. Canadians need a Prime Minister who will secure jobs, secure our economy, and secure our future.
The Honourable Member for Dorval-Lachine-LaSalle.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In general, the start of a new year brings hope and new resolutions. In normal times, it can also bring winter blaws that we get through by clinging to the promise of the return of beautiful spring days.
Like last year, 2021 so far is no regular year. The mental health challenges we are currently facing as a nation are significant. Trying our best not to lose sight of better days to come can be challenging. Sometimes hope and willingness to thrive, no matter the circumstances, can get tangled in despair, especially in the context of self-isolation and loneliness. Des ressources se trouvent sur...
There are resources available on the federal government website, and help can be as simple as a sympathetic ear. More than ever, let's pull together for what is hopefully the home stretch in this race against the pandemic. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Oral questions. Question orale. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, Line 5 provides all the jet fuel for Pearson Airport and most of the propane used in home heating in Ontario. The Pipe Fitters Union says that 6,500 trades jobs will be affected if Line 5 is shut down. Another 20,000 spin-off jobs could also be at risk. Is the Prime Minister finally going to stand up for Canadian energy workers, or will there be more pink slips delivered this spring?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Muriel?
Mr. Speaker, our government understands very well the importance of the energy sector and
it's okay.
of energy workers.
I'm just going to interrupt for a second. The Honourable Minister.
As Finance Minister,
I'm not sure if they can hear me, but we're having someone's looking for Muriel. I'm sure Muriel will answer. We'll just leave that one there. But I want to make sure that everyone mutes their microphones. And if you don't mind, we'll take this one from the top because there was some interference and one of the question wasn't coming across well. So I'll let the Honourable Leader of the Opposition go from the top and we'll go from there. Like it never happened. There you go.
I hope they find Muriel. This is another shot at this, Mr. Speaker. Line 5, that pipeline, provides all the jet fuel for Pearson Airport and most of the propane that Ontario's homes use to heat their home in the winter. The Pipe Fitters Union says that 6,500 trades jobs will be lost if the line is shut. Another 20,000 spin-off jobs could be lost as well. Is the Prime Minister finally going to stand up for Canadian energy workers, or will more families receive pink slips this spring?
Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, our government understands very clearly the importance of the energy sector to the Canadian economy and the importance of the energy sector as a provider of valuable, high-paying, very often union jobs. As Finance Minister, I am very aware of this and very aware of the importance of the energy sector in contributing to Canada's balance of trade. So yes, Mr. Speaker, our government has and will continue to stand up for the energy sector and for energy workers.
Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Deputy Prime Minister is aware her government shut down 2 pipelines and now the Americans are trying to do the same. Line 5 has operated safely for decades. But now its future hangs in the balance because the governor of Michigan wants to shut it down. The U.S. Department of Transport will have the final say on whether Line 5 survives this threat. Why is the Prime Minister sitting back as the United States considers shutting down another Canadian pipeline?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as I have said, our government understands very well the importance of the energy sector to the Canadian economy, the importance of the energy sector as a provider of great, high-paying, often unionized jobs, and the importance of the energy sector as a contributor to our balance of trade. When it comes to the trading relationship with the United States, let me say, Mr. Speaker, our government has a lot of experience in dealing with a sometimes volatile but always essential relationship, and we're going to keep on doing just that.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, The Economist has shown that most Canadians will be vaccinated 6 months after the United States, the United Kingdom, and the European Union have all completed their vaccine rollout. And that was before the latest cut of another 500,000 doses for Canada. Weeks ago, the Prime Minister said he had a plan for 367,000 doses per week. Now the Prime Minister will only deliver 15% of what he promised just a few weeks ago. Is 15% a success in the eyes of the Deputy Prime Minister?
Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, let me remind Canadians of the situation with vaccines. Canada has secured 10 doses of vaccine per Canadian, and we have the most diverse and extensive vaccine portfolio in the world. More than 1.1 million doses have already arrived in Canada. 6 million will arrive by the end of the first quarter, and every Canadian who wants to be vaccinated will be by September.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
À la vitesse qu'on roule, la campagne.
At the rate we're going, the vaccine campaign presented by the Prime Minister in December will not be a reality, will not become a reality for 18 months. It's a failure. With this Liberal government, we will be behind Europe, the UK, and the US and other countries at every stage in the pandemic. Delays are a question of life and death. Why is this Prime Minister always late in responding to this crisis? The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I agree that vaccines are an urgent matter, and this is a priority for our government. That is why we have obtained 10 vaccine doses per capita. Canada has already received more than 1.1 million doses, and it will receive 6 million by the end of the first quarter. All Canadians who want to receive a vaccine will be able to do so by September 2021. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Urgent, Mr. Speaker? 2 weeks ago, the Prime Minister said that Pfizer would be sending 337,000 doses per week. But 1 week later, we'd only received 79,000 doses. This week, 0 doses. Each week is worse than the previous one, Mr. Speaker. The provinces are ready. Where are the promised vaccines? The Deputy Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to underscore that Canada has already received 1.1 million doses and that we will receive 6 million doses in total by the end of the quarter. The Prime Minister and the entire government are very committed to this urgent work. The Prime Minister himself just spoke with the heads of Pfizer, Moderna, and AstraZeneca. We will keep on working. The Honourable Member for La Prairie. Mr. Speaker, we learned today from journalist Philippe Bonneville that more than 5,000 tourists returning to Canada were put up in a hotel by the federal government. They were being housed and fed on the taxpayers' dime, Mr. Speaker. It's incredible. In fact, by the 31st of October, we had already paid $73 million out of pocket to put up people at a hotel for 14 days for people who had traveled during the pandemic while everyone else was making sacrifices. We agree with mandatory quarantines, but the travelers should pay themselves. When will the government do something to send them the bill? The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, this program was not designed to encourage Canadians to ignore clear public health guidelines against international travel. I would like to take a moment to say to Canadians, we should not be traveling now. We are taking immediate measures to end this problem so that international travels may not access this benefit. And I know that opposition MPs will be supporting us in that effort. The Honourable Member for La Prairie. The Deputy Prime Minister didn't answer my question. She just addressed the issue of the $1,000. And I'm just getting to that. Those people, while they were being put up in a hotel on the taxpayers' dime, weren't able to work. So what happened? The government ended up offering them $1,000 to compensate for their lack of income. We're making a mockery of ourselves, Mr. Speaker. The government should do 3 things, and I hope it's listening. Firstly, make tourists who claimed $1,000 for their quarantine since the 3rd of October to refund the money. Secondly, mandate monitored quarantines paid for by the travelers. And thirdly, send the bill to all those who spent their quarantine in a hotel for free. When will the government act? The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, once again, I'd like to underscore for all Canadians and Quebecers that we should not travel abroad at the moment. It's dangerous for the country and it's dangerous for our communities. Regarding the program, we are taking immediate steps to resolve the programs to ensure that international travelers cannot access that benefit. And we are also working on measures at the border to make the situation even more strict, although there are already strict measures in place. The Honourable Member for Burnaby South. Mr. Speaker, The provinces have learned that Canada will be receiving 3.5 million doses of the COVID vaccine instead of the $6 million promised by the Prime Minister. Fewer vaccines will lead to more infections and more deaths. What will the Prime Minister do to ensure that we get enough doses to vaccinate the entire population? What is the plan? The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the plan is the following. Firstly, we have the most diverse vaccine portfolio in the world with 10 doses per Canadian. We have already received 1.1 million doses. We will receive 6 million by the end of the first quarter. And all Canadians who want to get vaccinated will be able to get the vaccine by September 2021.
For Burnaby South.
Mr. Speaker, that is not a plan. Those are some goals, but Canadians need to know what the plan is to achieve those goals. Provinces learned today that there's only 3.5 million doses instead of the 6 million promised. We know that less doses means more infection and more death. We need a clear plan. So my question to the Prime Minister is, what is the plan? What is the plan to make sure everyone in our country is vaccinated? Lay out that plan in detail so Canadians can rest assured. What is the plan?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians are rightly focused on vaccines, and so is our government. And that's why I'm glad to have the chance to offer Canadians these facts and this plan. We have the most diverse and extensive vaccine portfolio in the world, 10 doses per Canadian. 1.1 million doses have already arrived in our country, 6 million by the end of the first quarter, and every Canadian who wants to be vaccinated will be by September.
L'honorable député de Charbot.
The Honourable Member for Charbot-Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, this government set a goal of vaccinating all Canadians who want to be vaccinated by the end of September. If we want to meet that goal, we will need 60 million doses, 2 per person. So we need 2 million doses per week. How many will be missing this week? 2 million. And next week, 1.9 million. Who will be left out due to this failure? The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to begin by saying that we have a very solid plan in place with 7 vaccine manufacturers, and our strategy from the very beginning is to ensure that Canadians have access to a vaccine by the end of September. We have 4 million vaccines coming into this country prior to the end of the quarter, 20 million from approved vaccine suppliers by the end of the second quarter, and all Canadians will have access to a vaccine prior to the end of September. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable député de Charbot-Haute-Saint-Charles.
The Honourable Member for Charbot-Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, we've already heard this story about having the biggest portfolio in the world with 10 doses per capita. We've heard that plenty of times. But the problem now is that we've heard that next week we're only going to get 79,000 doses from Pfizer. All of that doesn't add up. What I want to know is why the minister canceled a 16 million dose contract with Moderna.
Mr. Speaker, it's inaccurate to say that we canceled a contract with Moderna. On the contrary, Moderna is providing 2 million vaccines to Canada this quarter alone, and we have secured 40 million vaccine doses from Moderna in total. In addition, Mr. Speaker, I would like to say that Susan Athey, a professor at the University of Stratford, a leader in vaccine strategy, says that Canada is a role model around the world, Mr. Speaker. That's because of our vaccine strategy, which has been in place and will deliver for Canadians this year. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Calgary Nose Hill.
I think my colleague has a point, Mr. Speaker. We actually need about 2 million doses per week to meet the need if you do the math on it. Yet we're behind 2 million doses this week. We're going to be behind 1.9 million doses next week and 1.9 million doses the week after. This math just isn't really working out for me. So if we're about 6 million doses behind, when are those coming?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the honourable member for her question. The reality is, Mr. Speaker, that this is a global environment which is extremely competitive as all companies ramp up their supply chains. We will receive 6 million doses of vaccines from Pfizer and Moderna prior to the end of the quarter, 20 million from approved vaccine suppliers prior to the end of Q2, and prior to the end of the third quarter, all Canadians will have access to a vaccine should they want to. That's why, Mr. Speaker, people from around the globe and within Canada are hailing Canada's strategy relating to vaccine. I point to Professor Chagla, Professor Kindrachuk, an assistant professor at the University of Manitoba, as well as Lurianne Hadcastle from the University of Calgary itself. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Calgary Nose Hill.
Well, if we want to quote people, The Economist magazine said that Canada is not going to be vaccinated until 2022. So again, by our math, we should be getting about 2 million doses per week to make the September timeline. Yet the minister is saying that we're only going to be getting 6 million doses by the end of March. We should be getting 8 million doses by the end of February. So if we're 2 million short this week, 1.9 million short next week, and 1.9 million short the week after that, what are they doing to make up the shortfall?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the honourable member for her question. I don't believe shortfall is the accurate term to use. Indeed, we have the most diverse portfolio in the world, and we are assuring Canadians that of approved vaccines alone, there will be sufficient numbers to vaccinate all Canadians prior to the end of September. There's a significant ramp up that is required in the global supply chain, Mr. Speaker, and we need to acknowledge the global environment that we are operating under. Notwithstanding that, Canada is extremely well placed, and we will make sure Canadians have access to vaccines. That's my priority as procurement minister and our priority as a government. Thank you.
The honourable member for Carleton.
Speaker, do you want the good news or the bad news? Well, we'll start with the good news. We all need a boost. IMF's out with its revised projections for economic growth, and the world growth output is up. Advanced economies projected output up. American GDP output way up, almost double. Now for the bad news. Canada's is 1/3 lower than projected just back in October. That's equal to $30 billion of lost GDP, lost paychecks for Canadians. So now that Canadians will not have those paychecks, what does this government expect them to do? Put it all on the credit card?
The honourable minister.
Based on the tremendous uncertainty about the future path of and there is tremendous variance among economists' forecasts. The Bank of Canada's Monetary Policy Report, which came out last week and predicted a 4% growth rate in 2021. It's also worth pointing out that in November, the Canadian economy outperformed forecasts on jobs and GDP growth.
The honourable member for Carleton.
Well, Mr. Speaker, something strange happened in October. The IMF had us growing this year at 5.2%. Now it's 3.6%. That's a massive drop. And the only thing that's happened since then is that the government has released a phantasmic economic statement and a speech from the throne full of crazy ideas to re-engineer our entire economy. Even a former Liberal advisor is out saying this government will have spent $1 trillion to achieve nothing for our economy. So once again, with $30 billion of lost GDP and lost paychecks along with it, what does this government expect all those jobless people to do to pay their bills? Are they just expected to put it on the credit card?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, our government's priority today is fighting and conquering the coronavirus. We absolutely understand that some provinces and territories, all provinces and territories, have put in place some restrictions, necessary restrictions to fight the virus, and we support that work. The best economic policy for Canada right now is a strong health policy. And that is why the Government of Canada is providing strong support to Canadian workers and Canadian businesses to get through to the other side of the coronavirus. Once we get there, we will come roaring back, Mr. Speaker.
L'honorable député de Pierre-Boucher.
The honourable member for Pierre-Boucher les Patriotes Verchères. Mr. Speaker, I can't believe that I am once again being forced to ask the Prime Minister when he will close the borders. It makes no sense. How can it be that today he still hasn't banned non-essential flights? How is it possible that today quarantines still haven't been mandated and are not being monitored? How can it be that people who are smart enough to cancel their trip are not getting their tickets refunded? What is happening? When is action going to be taken? The Honourable Minister.
L'honorable ministre.
Mr. Speaker, since the beginning of the pandemic, our government took the spread of the virus extremely seriously. We have advised Canadians to cancel all non-essential travel. We have banned foreigners from entering the country. We've required arrivals to quarantine for 14 days. Now we're requiring arrivals to be pre-tested before entering Canada. And Mr. Speaker, we are currently examining further options and policy decisions to restrict our border. Thank you for the question.
L'honorable député de Pierre.
The honourable member for Pierre-Boucher les Patriotes Verchères. Well, this story is getting pretty old, Mr. Speaker. The same thing keeps happening over and over. During the first wave, the Prime Minister delayed taking action on the borders for so long that the City of Montreal ended up having to take action at the airport. And now in the second wave, the government of Quebec is having to monitor quarantines, or at least is trying to, because the federal government is doing absolutely nothing. To govern well means to be able to look ahead, but this Prime Minister is not even capable of reacting to what's already happened.
Mr. Speaker, last March, we told travelers entering Canada to self-isolate for 14 days to prevent the spread of COVID-19 in Canada. We've since strengthened our measures at the border. Travelers returning to Canada are subject to a mandatory 14-day isolation under the Quarantine Act and must provide a negative PCR test before boarding their flight into Canada. With this, we are protecting the health and safety of returning Canadians and those who are around them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
L'honorable député de...
The honourable member for Avignon, La Métis, Matane, Matapédia. Mr. Speaker, 486 cases of COVID-19 were found among travelers from holiday travelers who returned to Canada, and they infected 1,250 other people. That's twice as high as the preceding month. These trips abroad, encouraged by the inaction of the Prime Minister, have led to the virus spreading. In addition to ensuring that these irresponsible people who travel end up respecting their quarantine period, the Prime Minister needs to ban non-essential flights once and for all, and must make sure that those who have canceled their trips get their tickets refunded. With the spring break coming up, what is the Prime Minister waiting for?
Monsieur le Président, nous l'avons clairement dit.
Mr. Speaker, we have said very clearly from the very beginning that Canadians should not travel for non-essential reasons. That is the position we have taken since March. And these travelers do need to spend 14 days in quarantine when they return and respect that quarantine. Recently, we have decided to add tests before the beginning of their trip back to Canada. And we are now considering additional measures to further restrict travel abroad. Thank you.
The honourable member for Regina Louvain.
Mr. Speaker, NAV Canada is planning to close air traffic control towers across the country. One of those control towers is in Regina at the International Airport. I met with NAV Canada officials on December the 4th and talked about the process to close these towers and how they will decide which ones will be shuttered. They said this process would take months. However, to the Transport Minister, why is it Regina Airport employees received notice of layoffs on January 14th if this report is not even finished yet?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the safety and security of the traveling public is top priority of mine and top priority of our government. NAV Canada has undertaken several studies to assess the level of service needed. No decision has been made. It's important to note that any changes in the level of service proposed by NAV Canada will be subjected to a rigorous safety assessment by Transport Canada. The process provides for full consultation with all affected stakeholders. No compromise on safety will be taken, Mr. Speaker.
For Calgary, Midnapore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, 3 weeks ago, we found out that foreign airlines are receiving Canadian funds from Canadian taxpayers. Yet today we are hearing that 2 of these foreign airlines will actually be pulling out of the Canadian market after having received our funding. Does the minister still think that it was a good idea to help foreign airlines before helping the airlines right here at home?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I believe the member opposite is referring to the wage subsidy program. And let me just say that that program has been an essential part of our federal government's work during this unprecedented pandemic. It has played an essential role in helping more than 4 million Canadians keep their jobs. That has been one of the most important measures, which has led to a much stronger jobs recovery in Canada than, for example, in the United States. It's an essential program, and we're glad it's in place to save Canadian jobs.
Member for Calgary, Midnapore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, speaking of the United States, for 10 months, this airline sector in Canada has been struggling to survive with no help from this government. Yet it was FedEx, an American company, that was awarded the contract to distribute the Moderna vaccines. Why did this government give a sole source contract to FedEx, an American company, when so many Canadian airlines are just struggling to survive?
Honourable Minister. The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, indeed, we ran a limited competition after seeking expressions of interest from the market. We heard from various suppliers prior to signing a contract with FedEx. In fact, FedEx put forward a proposal to partner with Innomar Strategies, a Canadian distributor for vaccines. And so we actually do have some Canadian content in that distribution package. And the role is very complex. And we're very pleased that we've been able to distribute vaccines across the country.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Strathcona.
Thousands of Albertans are deeply concerned about the proposed Grassy Mountain coal mine. Open pit coal mining is a dated and destructive industry. It is an environmental disaster for water protection and an economic disaster for farmers, ranchers, and those in the tourism industry. This project will result in severe consequences for Alberta's water, and these impacts will be felt downstream in Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and the U.S. Recognizing that this will have a devastating impact on so many people, will the minister put a stop to this destructive project?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the honourable member for her question. This is a development that is within provincial jurisdiction, but it is a project that we are watching very closely. Whatever processes are subject in this particular matter, we will be adhering to. It is something that we are watching very closely, and we will be discussing it with the Government of Alberta. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Windsor West.
Mr. Speaker, NAV Canada announced a study to close air traffic control towers at airports across the country, including Windsor, throwing our community into disarray as they hold non-public meetings. Windsor, Tecumseh, and Detroit's airspace is complex as it includes 5 airports. Eliminating air traffic control puts the public safety in jeopardy, especially in the dangerous Riverside descent area that already had mid-air collisions between Canadian and U.S. planes. I presented a legislative solution that empowers the minister to put public safety first and foremost. Will the minister support this proposal to become law?
Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And let me assure the honourable member that I've discussed this matter also with my colleague, Parliamentary Secretary, who's from Windsor. And then let me repeat, the safety and security of the traveling public is our government's top priority. As I said earlier, NAV Canada is undertaking several studies to assess the level of service needs, particularly during the pandemic where there's a lot less traffic. It's important to note that any changes to level of service proposed will not compromise on safety, and it will be done in consultation with stakeholders. Eventually, Transport Canada will assess whatever decision NAV...
The Honourable Member for Northwest Territories.
Mr. Speaker, gendered violence disproportionately victimizes Indigenous women across Canada, and in particular Canada's North. A recent Stats Canada report confirms that gender-based violence is on the rise, especially against Indigenous women, and has gotten worse during the pandemic. Although a staggering 39% of women in the North report they have experienced sexual assault, the survey also found that just 1 in 8 sexual assaults was reported to police. Can the Minister of Public Safety please update this House on what the RCMP is doing towards reconciliation with Indigenous people and ensure that everyone can feel safe?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to begin by thanking the member of the Northwest Territories for this very important question, and I believe we all agree that Indigenous women have a right to feel safe in their communities. The partnership between Paktuti Women of Canada and the RCMP is a very positive step forward on the National Police Force's efforts of reconciliation with Inuit women, girls, and gender-diverse persons. The agreement will review the RCMP's cultural competency training, the establishment of a family violence coordinator in Nunavut, and consultation with Inuit women on the RCMP's body-worn cameras pilot project. Our government will continue working together with provincial and territorial governments, First Nations, Inuit and Métis communities to end the ongoing national tragedy.
The Honourable Member, l'Honourable.
The Honourable Member for Richmond Arthabaska. Mr. Speaker, the U.S. has announced protectionist measures that will have disastrous consequences on Canadian businesses. According to the Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses, already 180,000 small and medium-sized businesses could shutter. This means 2.4 million jobs in Canada, which are at risk. After the vaccine supply fiasco and border management, now our economy is in jeopardy. What is our Prime Minister waiting for to take action? The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, to Canadian businesses and workers, I want you to know that we are actively engaging with our American partners at all levels and that we're always going to stand up for the best interests of Canadians. The Prime Minister raised this with President on their call, where he emphasized that workers in U.S. and Canada benefit from our integrated, secure, and resilient supply chains. And they've agreed that we will consult closely to avoid any measure that will constrain our bilateral trade and economic growth for our two countries. We're going to continue to work together to support a sustainable economic recovery and create jobs and grow the middle class here in Canada and in the United States. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Richmond Arthabaska. Mr. Speaker, this is an unprecedented health crisis. It's easy to send a check, but what's missing is an economic recovery plan. Our entrepreneurs are suffering, millions of jobs are in danger, and these new protectionist measures by the U.S. will be terrible. The Prime Minister is always reacting, always behind, unable to make a quick decision. What is he waiting for to protect jobs across the country? The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the Honourable Member for that question. Nothing is more important to us than working with our neighbours south of the border so that we can indeed advocate in the interest of Canadian jobs, Canadian workers, Canadian businesses. It is I think our record will speak for ourselves in our relationship with the Americans, and we continue to work hard on behalf of Canadian businesses and Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable. I will quote, Mr. Speaker, Julie Payette's resignation is unprecedented and calls into question the Prime Minister's judgment. He appointed her without sufficient checks. Who said that? It was Danielle Bédard, the director of the Canadian Studies Institute at the University of McGill. The Quintet firm report is unequivocal. The toxic work environment that existed for years. There were yelling, screaming, public humiliations, and the PM turned a blind eye. The Prime Minister should refuse to give her a lifetime pension. The Honourable Prime Minister.
L'Honorable Ministre.
The Honourable Minister.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's important to recognize that every Canadian deserves to go to work each day in a safe workplace, free from harassment. That includes the hardworking and dedicated employees who work at Rideau Hall. We took this matter very seriously right from the beginning and put in place an independent review process. Following that process, the Prime Minister accepted Madame Payette's resignation.
The Honourable Member for Mégantic-Clérable. Words, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister had the report as early as January 12th. Only a highly redacted version made it to the media, and just in English, as if the Francophone community didn't deserve to know. The Prime Minister turned a blind eye voluntarily on the problematical past of the former Governor-General to satisfy his unquenchable thirst to make a big splash. Last September, in the middle of the inquiry, he said, "We have an excellent Governor-General." Is he still as proud of his choice as he was back then? The Honourable Minister.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, I won't be providing comments on the specifics of the report out of respect for the privacy and confidentiality of former and current staff and others that participated. And in order to maintain that impartiality of this process, the report has been released following the appropriate redactions in accordance with the law. Everyone deserves, as I said, to work in a safe workplace, including the staff who work for the Governor-General.
Honourable Député. The Honourable Member for Beauport-Limoilou. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister and President Joe Biden talked about vaccinations last Friday, and I quote the Prime Minister's office. They discussed collaboration on vaccines and acknowledged that the two countries' efforts are strengthened by the flow of critical medical supplies. So now that Canada and the U.S. have agreed that the vaccine should freely circulate between the two countries, my question is quite simple. How many doses of the Pfizer vaccine did he manage to get from the U.S. for Canada? The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, nous partageons l'urgence des Canadiens.
We share the urgency of Canadians in getting access to this vaccine as soon as possible. With more than 1.1 million vaccines distributed throughout the country to date, Canada is on track for the first quarter. Our government is in charge of this file, and we will not stop until the work has been completed. The Honourable Member for Beauport-Limoilou. Mr. Speaker, the government has to be looking for solutions. The Major General in charge of supply has just revealed that Pfizer will have new delivery delays. Already we weren't expecting much for next week, and now we've learned that we'll get fewer doses for the week of February 8th. And now there's fewer than 9,000 doses in Quebec. The tap is dry, Mr. Speaker. Now Canada and the United States have agreed that the vaccine should flow freely. What is the government waiting for to get the doses right from the U.S.? The Honourable Minister.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, I said and continue to say that we will receive 4 million doses from Pfizer in this quarter. I spoke with Pfizer and continue to do so and have done so personally in order to confirm the figures. Those are the facts, Mr. Speaker. We will continue to work hard for Canadians.
Number 4, Edmonton Centre.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister needs to get 2 million doses to Canada every week to make its September timeline. This week, Canada received 0 out of the 2 million, and next week doesn't look much better. This isn't a role model. Lives are at stake. My son, who is compromised, finally had hope when his 2 caregivers had appointments for their vaccines, but that quickly evaporated when they're canceled due to lack of supply. This isn't a poker game the Prime Minister is playing where he can bluff his way through. How does the Prime Minister plan to get 2 million doses next week after getting 0 this week?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I appreciate the honourable member's question. And I will say that as supply chains and manufacturing for these vaccine suppliers ramp up, we are going to see increasing numbers of vaccines rolling into this country, beginning with hundreds and thousands of vaccines in February and into March, and then millions in the following quarters. Indeed, we will expect 4 million Pfizer vaccines, 2 million Moderna vaccines this quarter, 20 million vaccines from those suppliers in the second quarter. And by the end of September, all Canadians who wish to have access to a vaccine will indeed have such access. That's our commitment to retain our schedule, Mr. Speaker. We are on track.
The Honourable Member for Richmond Centre. The Honourable Member for Richmond Centre seems to be frozen. What we'll do is we'll maybe come back to her in a moment if it hopefully clears up. The Honourable Member for Yorkton Melville.
Speaker, the Prime Minister needs to get 2 million doses per week to meet his September timeline. Right now, this week, we're at 0. Next week, Canada's to receive 79,000 doses, and Canadians have not been encouraged to believe that shipments will return to normal anytime soon. This means Canada will be shorted 1.9 million doses, while the EU is actually considering an export ban on vaccines, and Canadian companies with the capacity to produce vaccines have been put on the back burner by this government. Who's going to be left out next week when we're 1.9 million doses short?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, while the opposition sows doubt among Canadians, we are working tirelessly to get vaccines to Canadians. Our aggressive approach is being noticed. Industry experts and researchers are recognizing that Canada is indeed a role model in vaccine procurement. Professor Susan Athey from the University of Stanford, a leader in vaccine strategy, has referred to Canada as a role model around the world. We know more work lies ahead, and we will continue to be tireless in ensuring all Canadians who choose to be vaccinated will receive one by the end of September. 4 million from Pfizer and 2 million from Moderna in this quarter alone, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Honourable Member for Vimy.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, since the beginning of the pandemic, many businesses in the tourism, hotel, arts and culture sector have been hard hit. Many of them have been able to benefit from government programs such as the wage subsidy or the Canadian Emergency Business Account, but they still need help. The government launched a new program for sectors that were the hardest hit. Can the Minister of Small Business tell us how this program will help businesses in my riding? The Honourable Minister.
Monsieur le Président, je remercie.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the member for her advocacy on behalf of businesses in Vimy.
To be hard hit and struggling with reduced revenues and uncertainty because of COVID-19. And on Tuesday, our government launched the new Highly Affected Sectors Credit Availability Program, otherwise called HoC, as another way of providing a critical lifeline to our hardest hit businesses. HoC will provide 100% government guaranteed low interest loans from $25,000 to $1 million. And for those businesses with multiple locations under one entity, up to $6.25 million, so that they can bridge to the other side of this pandemic. Our government will always stand up for our amazing small businesses and entrepreneurs in Canada.
The Honourable Member for Kenora.
Mr. Speaker, in 2016, this government promised high-speed internet to the communities of Madsen and Shoal Lake 39 in my riding. This funding was announced 5 years ago, yet these communities are still waiting for improved service. So if it was not to deliver high-speed internet as promised, where was this funding actually spent?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we are moving forward with great urgency and great focus to connect every Canadian to high-speed internet. In our first mandate, we supported our partners to connect 1.7 million households across the country. In this mandate, the Universal Broadband Fund is already working. We approved the first project under the program in Alberta, which connects 7,179 households to this important and essential service. Another project northeast of Sudbury will bring high-speed internet access to 74 households. 68 of them are Indigenous, and every day we get closer to connecting every Canadian. If my colleague wants to speak...
The honourable member for Yellowhead.
Mr. Speaker, for many rural Canadians, including thousands in my riding, wireless high-speed internet is the only broadband solution available. Internet in my riding is offered to constituents at speeds of 0 megabytes and up. However, with access to more spectrum, they could receive 50 megabyte download and 10 megabyte upload. Mr. Speaker, when the government is auctioning spectrum, what is it doing to hold providers accountable to ensure they deploy spectrum in rural communities?
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I thank my colleague for his important advocacy, both with spectrum auctions and subsidies for those communities where the business case to connect households to high-speed internet simply is not there. Our government is there. Spectrum options include a carve-out for smaller rural communities. We've worked diligently to ensure smaller internet service providers receive at least a third of our investment. The other third has gone to Indigenous communities, and that last third goes to larger ISPs. If my colleague wants to connect to talk about how we can support his community in getting connected, my team and I are always here for him.
The honourable member for Prince George, Peace River, Northern Rockies.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of BC's public fisheries have grave concerns about the upcoming 2021 fishing season and what it will mean for their families' futures. Despite recent data that supports keeping many BC fishing areas open, the Liberals have repeatedly ignored their own science and shut things down instead. The member for Abbotsford and I recently asked to meet with the Minister of Fisheries and Oceans to bring these concerns directly to her. She wouldn't spare the time and apparently couldn't care less. Why is the minister refusing to meet with us and hear the concerns of thousands of our BC public fishery families? Why?
The honourable minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we recognize the challenges being faced during the pandemic with regards to declining stocks as well in BC waters. We're making sure that we're doing everything we can to address these concerns. We know that public fishery has been hard hit. We will continue to work diligently with stakeholders to make sure that we can address these issues as we go forward. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
L'honorable député.
The honourable member for Marc-Aurèle-Fortin. Mr. Speaker, in this beginning of the year, seniors in Quebec and across the country are dealing with social isolation due to the lockdown. Our government has reacted quickly when the crisis hit by providing strong measures, but the opposition does not have a plan to help seniors during these difficult days. Can the minister tell the House the measures that our government has taken to support seniors who are isolated throughout the pandemic? The honourable minister.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank my colleague for Marc-Aurèle-Fortin for his question and his work on behalf of seniors. Our government has taken strong action to support seniors in their communities, providing over 2,000 senior serving projects through the New Horizons for Seniors program. I've been inspired by the stories of seniors connecting with their families and one another virtually for the first time as a result of these programs. This is in contrast to the Conservatives who have criticized our investments to support Canadians during the pandemic. It's important our government is supporting seniors through this difficult time.
The honourable member for Courtenay Alberni.
Mr. Speaker, Jackie is a constituent of mine in Port Alberni. She's self-employed and her home-based business has struggled since the beginning of the pandemic. Jackie applied for CERB because she was told she could. She used the help to pay bills and support her family because she didn't qualify for any small business support. Now the Liberals are telling Jackie that she needs to pay her CERB back. Meanwhile, some rich corporations that receive the wage subsidy have been paying out millions to shareholders, but this government isn't going after them. So why is this government going after Jackie and other Canadians who did nothing wrong while refusing to hold the ultra-wealthy accountable?
Minister.
Speaker, when the pandemic hit, we quickly introduced the CERB, helping 8.9 million Canadians put food on their tables. We know that this continues to be a difficult time for many, and no one is required to make repayments, not Jackie, not any Canadian at this time. And in fact, we're actively looking at options to support Canadians where it might be determined that they were ineligible. As the Prime Minister has said, we're going to work with Canadians who need to make repayments in a way that's flexible for them and understanding their unique circumstances. There won't be penalties or interest for anyone who made good faith mistakes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Saanich Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Despite huge levels of effort from the government and billions of dollars spent, some sectors of our economy are still falling between the cracks. The situation right now for the commercial bus lines, the coach bus sector, an integral part of our tourism sector, integral in reducing greenhouse gases, serving remote First Nations such as Wilson's Bus Lines here in Vancouver Island, or the support to maritime communities from maritime buses. This entire part of our transportation infrastructure is at risk of going under imminently. We have to have one of two things, Mr. Speaker. Either money has to be provided to the sector or the big banks have to back off. What can be done?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank my honourable colleague for her question. She's right. The passenger bus service, inner-city passenger bus service has been hit very hard by the pandemic. And as she mentioned, our government has provided a lot of financial support for businesses that have been impacted by COVID. Now, she knows that the inner-city bus services is regulated by the province, but I also acknowledge that it's important to our cities, to our provinces. Therefore, we will continue to monitor the situation, and I'm happy to work with her on ideas that we can work together on.
Now, due to technical difficulties, we had a little bit of a problem, but we'll try again. The Honourable Member for Richmond Centre. The Honourable Member's on mute. If she can unmute herself, that would be...
Mr. Speaker,
there we go.
Earlier this month, do I start again? Okay, can I start now?
Yes, please do.
Mr. Speaker, earlier this month, an outbreak of COVID-19 decimated mineral residents in my riding, infecting 74 and claiming the lives of 11. As a result of this government's failure, seniors in long-term care facilities need to wait even longer for vaccines they needed months ago. What steps will this government, this federal government, take to immediately stop treating Canada's vulnerable seniors as an afterthought and get vaccines into arms?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for the important question. Mr. Speaker, we need to protect those living and working in long-term care. We provided $740 million to provinces and territories to bring in measures to control and prevent infections, including in long-term care. And on November 30th, we announced an additional $1 billion in the fall economic statement to create the Safe Long-Term Care Fund. We're working closely with the provinces and territories to protect those in care by providing guidance to prevent and address outbreaks and working with them to set new, very important national standards. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
And that's all the time we have today for question period.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
We have a number of point of orders. I just ask everyone to raise their hands. I want to thank the Honourable Minister for mentioning it, but I've got his down. And the first point of order, le premier appel au règlement va à l'honorable.
The Honourable Member for Montmagny-Lys-Lès, Kamouraska, Rivière-du-Loup. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to draw your attention to the fact that the Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister's connection was really not good today. And I didn't understand any of her or most of her answers, unfortunately. And the effect of this is, and I put myself in the shoes of the interpreters, they have to try to interpret someone with such a poor connection. And, you know, Mr. Speaker, it's definitely undermining the work of the interpreters. And that's why I tabled a motion at the Official Languages Committee to study this issue,